The day I moved from the US to Canada, I thought I knew exactly what to expect. Same language, similar cities, familiar stores. How different could it be? But by the end of my first 24 hours, I realized something no one had warned me about. Canada may look like America, but living here feels like a completely different world. Quiet streets, polite strangers, different traffic, different homes, different values. This is the real culture shock Americans don't talk about, and the small details that change everything. Moving to Canada wasn't just a trip. It wasn't just another stamp on my passport. It was a lifestyle reset I never saw coming. From the moment the plane touched down, something felt different. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, but subtle, like the entire country breathed at a slower pace. The cities looked familiar enough. Glass towers reflecting the morning sun, organized highways, malls that felt like their American cousins, and neighborhoods that could have been anywhere in suburban Detroit or Seattle. But the atmosphere, it carried another energy, softer, calmer, almost balanced. It was the first time I felt a country before I understood it. And the culture shock didn't come all at once. It didn't slap me in the face like moving to Asia or Europe. Instead, it arrived quietly. In the way people drove, the design of the homes, the tone of conversations, and the pace of daily life. Canada doesn't overwhelm you. It eases you into itself. Let me take you through that first day. The moment I realized life in Canada is familiar enough to feel comfortable, but different enough to change the way you see the world. And if you're American, Canada will surprise you more than you think. My first real Canadian culture shock hit during the drive from the airport. Not the airport itself, though even that was calm, with immigration officers who actually smiled. No, it was the traffic, not the number of cars because Canada has plenty. Not the speed of the cars because they move at a normal pace. It was the behavior of the drivers. People actually used turn signals. People slowed down early instead of waiting until the last second. People let other cars merge politely, without honking, without rushing, without acting like the road belonged only to them. When the light turned green, cars didn't blast off like rockets. They paused a full second, sometimes two. The first time it happened, I thought, is something wrong with the car? Did I miss something? But no, this was normal. Back in the US, 1 second of waiting gets you honked at. In Canada, that second is a courtesy, a buffer, a sign of respect for everyone sharing the road. And then the speed limits, 90 to 110 km/h on highways. To an American brain wired for miles, this feels like a math quiz in the middle of the freeway. But the real shock, people obey the limit. Not perfectly. No country is perfect. But consistently enough that the roads feel safer, calmer, and more predictable. No one races to prove a point. No one tailgates to show dominance. No one treats driving like a competitive sport. Canadian traffic isn't slow, it's intentional. A system designed not just for movement, but for sanity. And that's the moment I realized Canada isn't trying to impress you. It's trying to protect you. Next came the shock that every newcomer faces. The housing. Canadian housing feels familiar in structure, but different in purpose. Whether you land in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, or even smaller cities like Halifax or Regina, the pattern becomes clear quickly. Houses sit closer together. Yards are smaller, driveways shorter, garages compact. You won't see the wide, spread-out suburban spaces common in American neighborhoods unless you go far from major cities. And then there's the price. The part that truly wakes you up. Americans expect high rent in places like New York or LA. But Canada operates on a different level. A small one-bedroom apartment, expensive, a townhouse, very expensive, a detached home. You're looking at a number that could pay for multiple American college degrees, plus textbooks, plus student housing, plus your first car. But here's the surprising part. Canadian homes are built with a logic you can't argue with. They're cozy, efficient, designed for survival, not for aesthetics. Every home is prepared for winter. Thick insulation, weatherproof doors and windows, double or triple pane glass, radiant heating systems. Basements, always finished or partially finished because they're essential to staying warm. Houses here don't brag, they protect. And that's when I realized something. In Canada, comfort isn't decoration, comfort is engineering. After moving in, I went for a walk to a nearby store, and this was the moment the Canadian politeness stereotype turned into reality. The cashier greeted me with a smile. Not the forced retail smile we see in the US, but a genuine one, like she actually cared. Then I heard it. The word every American notices immediately. Sorry. Someone walked in front of me. They said sorry. I stepped aside awkwardly. They said sorry. I bumped someone's shopping basket. They apologized to me. In the US, sorry usually means I messed up. In Canada, sorry means I acknowledge your space. I respect you. I want zero tension between us. And it doesn't stop there. People hold the door longer than necessary. People thank the bus driver before getting off. People say excuse me before passing you, even when there's plenty of space. At first I thought it was scripted, too perfect, too polite. But after a few days I realized Canadians aren't performing politeness. They're practicing peace. It's a cultural discipline, a shared agreement to keep daily life calm and respectful. And that to me was one of the biggest shocks. By the afternoon I started to notice the rhythm of Canadian life. People walk slower, not lazy slow, peaceful slow. Measured, unrushed, present. No one pushed through crowds. No one cut ahead in lines. No one acted like the world was running out of time. I passed through a residential neighborhood and was stunned by the silence. No blasting music, no arguments in the distance, no sirens every 20 minutes. Just quiet kids riding bikes, dogs wearing sweaters, parents walking strollers, neighbors waving at each other. And then I saw something unbelievable to an American eye. A bike leaning against a fence, unlocked, just sitting there in public, and no one touched it. I realized something huge. Safety in Canada isn't enforced. It's lived. It's a culture, not a rule. People trust each other more. People expect good rather than assume bad, and that expectation affects behavior in every corner of daily life. It's not a perfect society, no place is. But it's a society where people actively try not to create unnecessary problems. And that level of peace that changes you. Later in the evening, the weather shifted. Snow started falling, soft at first, then heavier, then quickly turning into a full storm. The kind of snowfall that would shut down entire American cities. The kind that would make people panic, stores run out of supplies, and streets fill with abandoned cars. But Canadians, they acted like it was a normal Tuesday. Snowplows appeared within minutes, not hours. Sidewalks were cleared as if by instinct. People walked through the storm in heavy coats, boots, and gloves, unfazed by the weather. There's no panic here, just preparation. Snow tires, heated seats, emergency kits in the trunk. Winter jackets engineered like NASA equipment. This wasn't winter as a season, this was winter as a discipline. And I learned a crucial rule. If you're cold in Canada, that's not a Canadian problem. That's a you problem. Dress properly and winter becomes a challenge you can handle. Dress poorly, and winter becomes a lesson you will never forget. By nighttime, as I sat in my new place replaying the day, I realized something important. The biggest culture shock wasn't the traffic, it wasn't the homes. It wasn't the politeness or the weather. It was the values. In Canada, people talk softly, not to appear weak, but to maintain peace. People respect personal space because it builds trust. Work-life balance isn't a luxury, it's an expectation. Community matters more than convenience. Safety, stability, and fairness shape daily interactions. And above all, people try not to make life harder for others. Canada isn't perfect, but it is intentional. It chooses peace wherever possible, and that makes the biggest difference. It's the quiet shock Americans never expect. A society built on calmness instead of competitiveness. So yes, Canada may look a lot like the US at first glance. The buildings, the roads, the stores, the neighborhoods, they feel familiar. But living here, that's a completely different story. Life is calmer, safer, kinder, more balanced, more intentional. And once you experience it, you start to change too. This is Global Pulse, exploring the hidden cultural habits that shape life around the world. Like, subscribe, and join us for more stories from every corner of the globe.